So welcome to my session on a brilliant report. Can I print it? Okay. So let's firstly get PowerPoint to behave. And a bit about me. I'm known as my full name's Laura Graham Brown, but that's way too long, so it's Laura GB. For 20 years, I've been making data behave, but I'm very much at the user end, the self-service BI, rather than the back end of looking after databases. I'm active on Twitter. I'm Laura_GB. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, but not for data, for business apps instead. Because hey, Power BI kind of bridges that gap. So today's session. This comes from building lots and lots of Power BI reports. So you go and spend those hours and hours. No, this isn't one of my really complicated reports. This is a nice, simple one. But you spend hours and hours building a report, getting it right. You've put all the lovely things in it. You've done all the nice things, and everybody likes it. They're all impressed, etc., etc., etc. And then some delightful person asks the question, "Can I print it?" Or can we send out the PowerPoint pack that we normally send out before the meetings, or some other version of that? And they kind of, my gut reaction is no. Sorry, the answer is no. You can't have that. Go away. Look, here's Power BI. This is how we're doing it now. But that doesn't quite work, and people get upset with that answer. So we had to come up with some other answers, and Microsoft have provided a number of ways to do it. Okay. So we're going to have a look at the ways to say yes. The first three are really short little demos. The first two are very short demos, an export and the subscribe, and the limitations about what's happening there. Okay. And then we're going to have a quick look at Power Automate. You might want to know as Microsoft Flow, and how that works and how that helps. And then we're going to get into the meat of the session, which is the paginated report and how that works. But please be aware, on the paginated report, I'm very much aiming at somebody's built a Power BI report and they want a printable version. Okay. So I'm hoping next slide says demo. No, it doesn't. I've lost my demo slide. All this slide will come back up later, but I also will make sure this slide deck is available as well, to all the links that are available for paginated reports. So let me switch over to my other to demo mode. So that's not going to get me in demo mode. Right, my apologies, wrong screen came up. Let's have that window. It of course opens on the wrong screen. There we go. So here we are in Power BI Service. Everything I'm showing today is being done at the moment in a premium workspace. I will point out the bits that can be done in the differences this makes. Okay, so and the bits that you can do in premium, in a non-premium space, and the ones that will work in premium per user. Okay. So here's my Power BI report. Let me go and click on it. It's some fake data. By the way, if you've ever had to make up fake data and you've not come across Mockaroo, you're missing out on something, because Mockaroo will give you some data where you get to control the randomness of it, etc., etc., etc. So here we are in a pretty simple Power BI report. It's got some measures. It's quite a simple little. It's quite a simple little report. On my next page, I've got some more visuals, showing you some numbers, etc. And in some text. And in the bottom left-hand corner, I've got a little bit of SVG, showing you the percentage of something being filled up. Okay. And then I've got, in my details, I've got a table that's got a list of all the issues, with wonderful text, random made text, but here's all the issues. Okay. And that's a typical Power BI report, a pretty simple one, but a nice straightforward. So what options have we got? The first demo that I said we were going to do was an export, and that's quite straightforward. If I go and do an export, I've got a number of options here. So I can go to PowerPoint or a PDF, but let me go to PowerPoint just so I can illustrate what happens. And it shares what you want. So current values means it's got the current filters. You could just go for the current page, or you could go for the whole report, and you can include hidden ones if you've got any hidden tabs, but I haven't in this report. So we can export that out. And it takes a little while, okay? And so while that's going, let me explain some of the issues about this report. So one of the issues is on this page here, we've got 747 rows of data. Okay, that's so printing this is going to have some issues, as you can probably imagine. You're going to get a beautiful picture of a scroll bar, which is no use to man the beast. The other issue which we're going to have, okay, is on the issues per week. I have made use of, you're going to switch across to that page. I have made to do the closed on time. I've done so a little drawing in SVG to do that. So therefore I've used the HTML content custom visual, which I imported, but it's not a Microsoft certified visual. It is an uncertified visual. So therefore it's going to take, so there we are. There's my report. It claims it's ready. Oh, there it is. It's, oh, McAfee, go away. Let's open that file. My edge is updated. And I'm sure it used to appear in the bottom left-hand corner. Are we going to open or not? Yep, it's working on opening. There we go. See, PowerPoint is getting there. And of course, it opens in the wrong window. 2 screens is lovely, but it has its issues. So here we are. Here is our report. It puts a front slide on there. It tells you about when your data was last refreshed, which is quite useful in UTC. And there we are. There's our page. See, that page worked fine. Then we get to this page, our custom visual. It doesn't come through. Okay, so if people are going to be exporting your report, you do need to work out which bits will work and which bits won't work. A slicer is no use to man a beast, and a item that's going to have to scroll is also no use. Okay, so that's our export done. The other option that we've got, okay, how do you get rid of that? Let's hope that goes away. There we go. Subscribe. Okay, so subscribe. If you've used Power BI, you possibly have come across. Subscribe allows you to do a number of things. So I can add a new subscription. We can put in a number of items into here. I'm just going to take myself out because that email address doesn't actually exist. And I'm going to go for lauragpdemo@outlook.com. It's an email box that really doesn't get looked at apart from in demos. And it's a premium workspace, so I can send it outside the tenancy, assuming my admin allows me to. And I can go into here and put in a title for the subject. Now, and you can pick how often it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, etc., etc. The full report attachment is only available in premium and premium per user workspaces. And you can choose what format it's going to come out in. So you've got PDF or PowerPoint. And I can do save and close. And we can, let me just make sure that it's actually going to run. It takes a couple of minutes. But as you can see, you can set up. And what you can do is you can filter things to be a particular filter and set up a subscription at that point. So therefore you can subscribe with different filters applied. But I strongly recommend, if you are doing lots of different filters applied, name all of your subscriptions. Otherwise you can end up with like 20 subscriptions and you can't remember which one's which. So let's see if the demo gods are on my side. So because I included a link to that report, what you end up doing is you end up sharing that link. So I could have unticked it so they didn't get a link to that. But if I click onto that email, it says I've shared that link with them. Okay, which gives them an open report. And they should come through an email shortly that gives me a copy of that report, an exported version. Okay, so we will hopefully see if that one comes through. But because I want to do a bit more demos, we're going to come back to that one and see what that one looks like when it's come through, because we're going to send another email to this box as well. So what will happen is an email will come through with an attachment. But what I want to do is I want to move. There we go. See, as I threaten to move away, it arrives. And there we go. We've got our reports arrived. It's got a link to it. It should include a picture as well. And it also includes a PDF file, which will show you the report. Now, in that PDF file, if we open that up for a second, you can see we have exactly the same issues as we had in the PowerPoint. We've got slightly more of an issue in the fact that it's not loading. But hopefully, am I going to load? If it's not going to load, you're going to have to trust me that it has exactly the same issues. The custom visual doesn't come through, and obviously also the list of things also is just a scroll bar. Okay, I'm going to close that and we'll come back. We will come back. So let's go back into our other window. And the other possibility we've got is a new feature, is a reasonably new thing in Power Automate. And so we're going to write a flow that does that subscription. Okay, so if I come into here, I'm going to go, so I could do a scheduled one. So a scheduled flow. Send issues. We can say when it starts. You can repeat. Please don't leave it on 1 minute because you will run out of flows that you're allowed to run. So if I go to the week, I can choose which days of the week it happens on. So there we are. We can have it on every day of the working week, and I can click start. So on this one, the disadvantage of a subscribe is it ends up in your inbox. Now, my IT career started a long time ago. One of my jobs was I was an email administrator. So, and in those days, we used to run out of space. So people sending files, I really have a thing against. So this flow, we're going to have it that it's going to save it to Teams. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for our Power BI parts. So in Power Automate, for Power BI, you don't have a huge number of things we can do. There's basically these 4 things. And here's our export to file for Power BI reports. Currently, this is only available in premium workspaces, but doesn't require premium Power Automate. Licensing, Microsoft, don't we love it? So, but in the documentation, premium per user, I think we'll get it eventually. It just hasn't yet. So we're going to go for LoRaGB demo. That's my workspace. Let's pick my report. There we are, issues. And on the export format, I've also got a picture. So that one I could also pull out as well. So if we stick to PDF for a second, we can then come down all the way through these. There are various things that you can fill in with regards to what pages you want and what bookmarks you want and what state you want them to be in. We are going to keep it really simple and we're just going to go with that. Okay. Please be aware this is a preview feature. So therefore it has the delights of not always being 100%. Although I've used it quite a lot and I've not had issues. So the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to make up a file name, because if we're going to do this daily, we can't always call it the same thing, okay? Because you're not giving yourself the snapshot possibilities there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a compose step. And into here, I'm hoping I'm going to get this right. No, you can't do it like that, Laura. You press the FX button. And this allows you to write an expression. So I'm going to go for format date time. And into here, I can put in UTC now, which is today. And then I can put in a format, which is going to be not double quotes, single quotes. I wish languages could kind of make up their minds on this one. So I'm going to go with the year hyphen the month, if I remember rightly, has to be in capitals, hyphen 2 Ds. And then we're going to put all of that in a concat. Power Automate is painful. If anybody thinks M is painful, believe me, Power Automate is worse. And I spend a lot of time in both places. Issues. Now, the one thing you have to remember in here is we've put it out as a PDF, so please do put it on an extension onto the file name. So that will give me that, and let's hope we've got that right. Yep, we have, because it came up blue, didn't come up red. And then we're going to add a new step. And into here, we're going to put in a create a file. That's not how you spell create, though. And we're going to go to SharePoint create file. And I'm just going to cheat slightly and switch over to my other connection. So it goes onto my tenants. Yeah, I'm swapping tenancies around in circles. And so then we're going to go for data demo. Folder path. And let's walk through the SharePoint site, because that's what's sitting behind your teams. And we're going to put it into data relay folder. Okay. So the name of the file, it can come from the compose action. And the file content comes from the export to file. Okay, we click save. And there we are. And it recommends we test it. So let's test it. Now, this trick can also be done with paginated reports as well. Allows you to give, instead of having to create subscriptions for everything. There we go. And what it's going to take a little bit of time to actually run that flow, because just in the same way it's got to do the export. So so the export to file up here takes about a minute normally. So I'm just going to prove to you that in Teams, here we go. I've got my data relay and in files here. I shouldn't have any. If Teams would play ball, it would be nice.
When does Teams ever play ball, Laura?
Rarely when I'm in it. Rarely when I'm in it.
Rarely when many of us are in it, by the sounds of it. I'm not sure.
My flow's working though. That's always a nice sign. Yeah. I madly joined the Teams preview, which was a bad idea. A little IT at the top there means I'm in preview. It's not going to show it to me. Come on. It just knows as soon as I can see there's a file there and I can show it opens, I'm going to close it. See, it knows. There we are. See, there's my file. It was created a minute ago. And if we click on it, we can start a conversation about it. It's loading it up there. So there's the first page. And what it does is it creates images for these. By the way, on the PowerPoint, it was how it does it is it just puts an image on everything, which is a screenshot. So there we are. There's our issue summary. And you can see we've still got the issue about the non-certified. But if you design your report knowing that it's going to be exported like this, I've actually got quite a lot of reports at client sites which are being exported exactly this way, and they work because they want their PowerPoint pack or they want their snapshot, and they need them to work. So if your report is designed correctly, if I only had those front 2 pages and I didn't have this HTML thing, it would work fine, no problem. So let's close down that. So this is obviously one way of doing it, and I could have had this a lot more complicated in doing all sorts of lovely things about files, etc. But that doesn't actually solve the problem in my report of page 3 of my report, which is the details and the long list and how that's going to work. And with premium per user, and if you haven't heard the announcements of premium per user, if you haven't heard Chris Finnan shouting very loudly, he got very excited about it. That premium per user is $20 a month or $10 a month if you've already got Pro. So let's move across to our paginated reports. And for paginated reports, you need to have a download report builder. Okay, and report builder is a completely different environment compared to Power BI. But if you've done your work in Power BI, you can connect to a Power BI dataset, and that's what I'm going to demo. For those people who've got data in databases, please don't go via Power BI. Please connect straight to the database. It's a lot easier. Okay. But as this session said, a Power BI report cannot print it. So the first thing you have to sort out is a data source. So I go into there and I'm going to add a Power BI dataset connection. I should have asked if there's any questions. I was hoping if there are, please interrupt.
Will do, Laura. At the moment, I think you're all good.
Okay, and so there we are. It's connected up already to the right to be logged in, and you can see there's my workspace, there's my report, and then I can click select. And so that's done my data source. Now, we now need to do a data set. So I'm going to click add data set. And I'm going to name it. Can't put any spaces in the name. It asks which data source you want to come from. So there we are. We can put that one in. So one report can have multiple data sources. Okay. Now into your query type here, it allows you to put in a query designer. And what the query designer is it goes off the data set and finds all the tables and the columns that are there. Okay. Now, one of the things to understand is, although it respects calculations, etc., it does not have the relationships coming through. Okay, so you can't pull fields from different tables and expect them to work in relationships unless you're going to write the DAX. Okay, and there's ways to do it, and I'll point you in the right directions. But for the time being, we're just going to go with a really simple report here. So what I'm doing is I'm dragging in each field. And I've not found a way to not have to drag in each field, which is slightly annoying to say the least. Apart from that, there are other ways of doing this, but if you're doing it purely from this and you're not doing it from the original report, that will, let's put in a, and you also it's a little bit difficult to put things in the middle. Can I put that one into there? Okay. Right. You can then click to execute the query. And what that'll do is it will go and run it, and it'll pull you back the data. Okay. And I can then click OK.
In the meantime, we've had a quick question come through.
Yep.
So the question is, in premium per user, would the author or the viewer or both need the premium license to use paginated reports?
So if they want to be able to run the paginated report, they all need premium per user. But if what they're doing is doing an export of premium, if you're going to use something like Power Automate to go and fetch the export into a PDF and send it, then just the ID that's being used inside Power Automate would use it. And I've used that a lot in clients. So that we've gone in and we've put in a premium per user license for the designer and for the, and we've used their account in Power Automate, and they're the only person that's got the account. So if they're going to go and run the report, everybody has to have premium per user. But there's nothing in there that says you can't subscribe somebody who hasn't got a premium per user license to that report as well, using Power Automate or using subscriptions.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
So when it comes to things like fields, if you want to rename a field, so I want that issue details. I don't think I can put a space in, so I'm just going to get rid of that underscore because I don't like it. But you can rename your fields in here, and then I'm going to click OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really simple table. And we're just going to go for a table, and there's a table wizard. So I can pick my data set. Now I'm just going to do a really simple version of grabbing all of those and putting them in values and not worrying about column groups or anything like that. And we're not doing groups or grand totals because we're not totaling anything. And then I'm going to click next. That can I move that field? Can let me move that field? I can almost guarantee it's not going to let me, is it? No, it's not. We'll cope with the reported being on the end. And then I'm going to click finish. I could have gone in there, by the way, and resorted them. Now, paginated reports, one of the other names they get given is pixel perfect. So you are designing this page up. So what I did was I started with a template. Sorry, I didn't mention that at the beginning. I started with a template, which I designed up. And for speed, I haven't done that in today's session. But in my 12 days of paginated reports, which I madly did over Christmas, by the way, I don't recommend it. It doesn't get you friends with family at all. There is my first video. So the one that came out on Christmas Day is creating a template. Okay, so that's where I got all this from, and this is exactly that one. I think it's about a 10-minute video. So I've got a table there. It's selected. What I want to do is I want to move it to be in the right location. And there isn't a selection pane in here to be able to select the things you want to be able to select. So while I've got it selected, I'm just going to, in the bottom right hand corner here, I've got position and it says location, and it's at 1 inch. Okay, no, it's not on it. It's 1/10 of an inch. That's weird, isn't it? So on the left, we're going to put it at 0 so that it's against the edge of the report, because I put page margins in. Okay, the top, I happened to know my top banner for my report is 1.5 centimeters tall. So if I do that, that's going to sit exactly just below it. Okay, so you need to work out the measurements of everything. Now, so let's have a quick look at this report. So we can do a run. And there's one version of it. There's also a print layout, which we'll just step into, and we'll just have a quick look at the things we're going to change. Okay. So in my print layout here, I've got all my closed calls. I want to get rid of those. All of my headings are right aligned because, hey, that's the way it works. My issue details is a bit too squashed. I could have that bigger. And my reported, I just want to change that date. And the priority column is probably too wide. So I can make a couple of columns narrower, and I'm going to make this column wider. Okay, so let's do some of those changes. But let's start with filtering it so that we aren't doing 183 pages. So back into design. Now, this filter I could do in a number of places. I could do it here in the table, or I could do it at the data set level, and there's multiple ways to do it in here as well. So I'm going to go to the data set properties. Okay, and so there's a number of places you can do it in here. If you do it in the query designer, it will change the code that's written in here. And for those of you that recognize this kind of code, it's the kind of thing you see if you use DAX Studio and putting code into there. So anything you've seen in DAX Studio, you can put into here. Okay, but another place you can put a filter is into here, and we can click Add Filters. And this is the easiest way to do it. It's probably not the best data handling way. So if it's a large set of data, I would probably put it back into the query. And so I'm going to go for status. does not equal closed. And click OK and click OK. Right. And so trust me, that one works. We'll go and have a look at it in a second. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to do a couple of changes of column widths. Now you could go through all these columns and change them using widths, etc., etc., fitting in with the pixel perfect idea. Now the important thing is to not make this wider than I've got it set to. So this is set so that you don't end up with a blank page. Okay, for anybody that remembers, if you've ever had the delights of Microsoft Access reports and there's blank pages because you made something a little bit too wide, it's back there again. And for anybody else that has to go at Paginated Reports and feels like they're back in the 90s, so do I. So put that on the left. So that deals with a couple of widths. Are we going to do the reported date as well? So I clicked on there to get the dark blue highlight, okay, and then a right click and placeholder properties. So placeholder properties, I can put in a number and I can choose how I want that formatted. So I'm going to go for date and I'm going to go for a nice short date version there. And then let's click OK. And let's try running it. And there we are. We haven't got any closed ones anymore. The columns are a little bit narrower. And I've got my issues columns a bit wider. And there we are. Reported is just a date. Okay, so obviously you can spend some time in here. Now, one of the issues is that title hasn't appeared. Okay, but when I publish it, weirdly, the title then does appear. So one of the things I am going to remember to do, given what I was talking about earlier about things failing, let's do a quick save as. Let's call this data relay. Okay, so it still hasn't appeared. You'd expect a name to appear up there, but it doesn't appear until we actually publish it. So let's prove that that works. So we can go to publish and publish it to the Power BI service. Makes it sound like there's issues at data relay. That's not what's meant to be happening there, but it tells me that it's safe to remove it later. So that's published. Let's switch over to the right window. And let's go back into my workspace. And there we are. There's my data relay report. And for anybody that's using Power BI apps, as in they're taking a workspace and making it into an app, your paginated reports are included in that. Or can be included in that. They don't have to be. And there we are. There's our report. Okay. But if we notice, it's not sorted. And if we go to page view, just for a second. If you go to page view, so I've got two things to fix. which I'm hoping I've got enough time to do. If you go to page 2, here is the delight of no headings. Okay, so let's go back into Report Builder. So we need to do sorting and we need to do headings. So into here, what we're going to do is I'm going to click into the table. Okay, now you could sort a number of places as well, just like you could filter in a number of places. So we're gonna filter it. We're gonna sort here in the table. Okay, so it doesn't affect all of our data. So obviously, if you do it at the data set level, it affects everything that's using that data set. So we're going to, on the view ribbon, we're going to go to view grouping. That gives me a section down here. Okay, now here's the details, and I'm going to click on details, and I'm going to go to group properties. And under group properties, there is sorting. And I'm going to add in a sort. And the first thing we're going to sort it by is when it was reported. So A to Z and Z to A, ascending or descending. It doesn't do the clever things like oldest and newest and things. And then you could go for on there, which priority do we want to see first? So let's go for A to Z. So the highest priorities come first as well. So then we can click OK. So that does my sorting. Now I want to do my repeating rows. And this is a hidden feature. What you have to do is on the column groups, there's a drop down on the over here, and we go to advanced mode. And that shows you all these things called statics. And on the row groups, the static there is referring to the top row. And when I click that, over on the right-hand side, the tablix, I've never heard this phrase before until I came to Paginated Reports. The tablix member has properties, and they are repeat on new page. We change that to be true. Okay. And so that's done, and we've sorted it. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go to home, and we're going to republish it. Now, what you need to be aware of is that you can open a report straight from the service as well as from off your PC. So there are times you can end up publishing it and not having a saved version back on your PC, and it won't complain while if you do that. And if I then go back into here, let's just make sure that it's come through. So there we are. The earliest ones I've got reported are back in December. Okay. And if I go back on to page 2, there we are. We have titles across the top. Okay, so that's just a very limited version of what Paginated Reports can do. They are including new features. They did an update not long ago. I think there will be, as more use happens, they will put more work into Paginated Reports. There is on the roadmap a Paginated Reports add-in for Power BI, as in you'll be able to embed a Paginated report inside a Power BI report. And there's also brilliant, if I had time to demo it, I would, a video from Guy in a Cube of putting a link inside your original report that could link to a Paginated report, which would be quite cool as well. So When am I meant to be finishing? When's my finish time?
You've got a few more minutes, Laura. I don't know how long the other demo you're hoping to get done will take, but you've probably got time for that, to be honest.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly demo putting in a parameter. Okay, so putting in a parameter into here to make it a personalized report, because obviously there's no point in putting in here a report that is putting out different reports filtered in different ways. You want one report you can reuse. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to do the one from Power BI because that one's going to go wrong and I haven't got that one planned, but I can do this one. So what we're going to do is we are going to, in issues list, I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to go into dataset properties and I'm going to do the first set of putting in a filter. Okay, and there's different ways you can do this. So the way if I go into Query Designer, if I come into Query Designer and I come into issues and I drag my status field up into the dimensions. Okay, and what we're going to do is what I'm doing is I'm going for the status field and I'm going to put that in as a parameter. So obviously it could have been software, it could have been priority, it could have been all sorts of things, and I'm going to say that's a parameter. Okay, now the reason you've got two parameter boxes, don't get upset you can't tick the other one, is because of the operator I picked. There is an operator available which is a between. Okay, so there's a range, so that's why you'd have two parameters. And we're going to click OK. Give that a moment to sort itself out. And you see into there, it's now put that into the statement as to put in what the filter is. Okay, if I had done it through this filters method, it would work just as well, but it wouldn't be in the query. Okay, so the filter would be done in the report rather than being sent back to the data set, which makes a difference if you're doing straight to databases. So if I click OK into there, that also has put into here an issue status list. Okay, so it's put in a parameter that's going to come through. And when you run this report, it asks you for a status, it asks you to pick one. Okay, so I can go, let's go for on hold. That's not really big enough, is it? We can go on hold there. And then I can click view reports. And it will run the report showing me only the on hold ones. Okay, so that makes it nice and easy to run. You can also if I go into a parameter, we can also go into the parameter properties. And in here, we'll be allowed, you'd be able to do various things. So there we are. We've got a data set. It's sorting out issue status and it's working out the things that are in there. If you wanted a different kind of parameter that wasn't based off that, but was a typed in values, you could specify the values you wanted to put in there. You can also pick a default value. Okay, so I could specify that by default, I want it to be add a value of open. And what else? What's the other part that I normally do in here? The prompt. So I could put in a sentence into there for the prompt as to what I want it to be, and then click OK. And when that gets to run, you can see we've changed the label there. By default, it says open, and it will by default run. Okay, but then somebody can come up here and they can change it and pick a different one in there instead. Fascinated there's a blank one. I'm not totally sure there should be. But hey, I'm trying to work out which one, why we've got one in there that's blank. What else? So, any questions?
So there's a question that's just come in, Laura, which is not specifically about the parameter stuff, but just more general, which is, yep. Can you include the rest of the original Power BI reports before the paginated section? So pages 1 and 2 from your original report, excluding the elephant, which we realise has some difficulties of its own, aren't showing on the paginated report. But can you include the rest of the paginated, the rest of the original report here as well?
Not as easily, no. So no, we can't do it straight away. But a paginated report can have in it charts, etc., etc. So therefore, you could have built it as a paginated report originally, or if going back to the data set in here, we can in here coming back into here. I haven't done it in here, so it might take a moment. I can go and create app, so it wouldn't put it out as a printout, but it puts it that people don't have to go into 2 different places. Okay, so if I just go into the app, I've got to put all the things in there. Okay, it's an app. There you go. See, yeah, I'm not allowed to write words on things. Work have learnt that don't let Laura write the description.
I think the question, if the way I'm reading it, I think the question sort of infers something about the relationship between the paginated report and the original report, and I'm getting the sense from what you're saying, what you've been talking about, that they're not sort of related to one another in that way. Is that fair?
Yeah, they're not related to one another. So let me just let that thing. Let's go back into oh no, so what you need to understand, okay, is Power BI reports have 2 parts. Okay, so they are connected, the paginated report. See, there you are. That briefly showed it, and I've now done a back on it, haven't I? Let's hope that takes me vaguely to the right kind of place. If not, I will get there again. So what the Power BI report is connected to a data set, and the paginated report is also connected to the same data set, but the visuals inside the report are not accessible by the paginated, because that's not what it's connecting to. It's connecting to the data set rather than.
Sorry, I interrupted. Go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, so effectively, you've got 2 different sets of visualizations here that are sharing a data set.
Yes.
Which I think actually you've quite nicely segued into another question, or anticipated another question, which is, can you use Power BI charts within Report Builder, or are you limited to the Ssrs visuals?
You're limited to the visuals inside paginated reports, but there are some really nice, clever tricks that are, as paginated reports are coming up more and more, people are working out ways to use them. And there is a lovely blog. It's by somebody inside Microsoft, but they're being really shy about who they are. And I'm in the wrong browser, so it's not going to come up. Let me find it in my. Let me bring up my PowerPoint. Next step.
While you're doing that, sorry, go on.
Next Step BI has got some lovely ways of doing visuals inside paginated reports. You're about to say.
I was just wondering, you did say that as interest is growing in these, Microsoft are improving features around this sort of area and what have you. Is this on a similar sort of update cadence to Power BI? Because users of Power BI desktop will be familiar with the monthly update cadence. Is that similar?
We're not at monthly cadence, but Microsoft, I do know, are because they can tell, because we publish the reports, because you have to publish a paginated report. They know exactly how many paginated reports are out there and how much they're being used. And obviously, since premium per user came up, there's an awful lot of people doing paginated reports, and simply by the number of people who are asking me to do various demos of paginated reports and various things, the interest is there. And Microsoft are very, very aware of that. And so therefore we'll be putting more work into it. So they've done a number of features. The bottom one down here is paginated reports in a day. If you can do it in a day, congratulations. I couldn't. My head hurt. I was like, oh my goodness, so much stuff. But it's been really well done, and it's not intended to be. And they've given it as a do it by yourself. If you want to, they give you all the videos and everything, and they give you all the materials, and they give you access to a database to be able to do it, which is great. It's got some lovely pictures in it. Of course, the paginated report there, and Chris Finland and his team are incredibly keen to get people doing this, and that's what the Next Step BI is as well. And then Paul Turley, who is one of the data MVPs, has done some amazing work in his recipes ebook. He's done some really good stuff out there.
Great.
Any
good
other
stuff.
questions?
I think that's about it for questions. There was a question I had, which I was just sort of wondering, and I hope I'm not bad-mouthing your laptop here. There were some moments when you were sort of waiting for responsiveness from the UI. Yeah. Is that a feature of the feature's perhaps the wrong word. Is that something that we can expect from the service, or?
No, I think my laptop is up to something.
Okay.
It's not paginated reports are not the fastest thing in the world. That's not what they're aimed at. They're not aimed at Power BI kind of style reporting, but they're normally faster than that.
Great.
I normally get a better response than that. They're aimed to be printed. They're not aimed to be looked at on a screen, and that is their aim. So, and by the way, the Power Automate taking a minute to export, no, that's normal. That's got nothing to do with my laptop. That is just, it takes a minute or two to export a 3-page report to a PowerPoint. So it's one of the issues.
Right.
There are a number of us putting together stuff towards paginated reports. If you find anything cool, please nab me on LinkedIn or on Laura GB on Twitter.
Okay, great. Well, that's with that actually your contact details there. That's a reasonable place to wrap up, I think. Thanks so much, Laura. That was really interesting. There've been a couple of a number of comments in the chat and in Q&A just thanking you for your time and for a really informative, instructive presentation. So thank you so much again.